Merry meet, Annie here. This video finally addresses the witch's mirror. You have seen the mirror in the back of my videos, and I had been meaning to get around to doing a video. Made the notes and was all set to go, and just one thing after another I didn't get to it. And as I'm about to put my mirror away and not use it for about 6 more months, I realized I'd better get my act in gear. Now, the things I'm going to address in this video are basically answering many questions that you have sent me about using the witch's mirror, which some of you call the magic mirror, which I have also heard called the dark mirror, and which I've always just called the witch's mirror. Let's begin by talking about hydromancy. Hydromancy is divination by looking at the reflection of something in water. It could be the sun or the moon. The reflection captured in water, like a still pond. The things that are seen in it, in the forms and the shape as it dances, and also the place meditation on that gets the seer, a place of introspection where knowledge moves. Someone got the bright idea at some point. Well, we can capture that. We can make our own still water anytime we want by placing it in a vessel, a bowl or a chalice, any vessel that could be held up to catch the reflection of the sun or the moon. Hydromancy. Our phrase commonly used in Wiccan practices of drawing down the moon actually harkens back to a time. Did I just say harkens back? I don't think I've ever said that before in my entire life. I like the sounds of it. The phrase, drawing down the moon, harkens back to those early times before there was such a thing as metal and mirrors, when Virgil tells us that drawing down the moon was the ancient way of bringing the moon's energy into the still water. Drawing down the moon, which we think of in a slightly different way today, still bringing down the energy of the moon, but perhaps into a priestess, perhaps into ourselves. But think of that more primitive capturing of the essence of the moon specifically in a body of water or in the still water held in a vessel of some kind. Then along comes metal. Not mirrors yet, not in our history, we haven't gotten to that point, but shiny surfaces. And the concept of the exact same thing, the drawing down and the capturing and using for divination the energies of the moon, reflected perhaps on silver, any kind of a polished surface. Then hydromancy becomes catoptromancy, which is the capturing of an image on a polished surface for the purposes of divination. Now we've entered the realm of the witch's mirror. I've had a lot of questions about the making of a witch's mirror. I did not have my own mirror for most of the years of my practice because I didn't find the right one. I was quite familiar with the use of a mirror. It had been an important part of the practice in my first 10 years. And my coven had its own mirror. It was an important part of the way we did what we did. But as an individual, I didn't have one. I just had never found the right piece of glass. Looking back on it, I think I was being too picky. At the time we were told that things like clock faces, the curved surface of a wall clock or a ship's clock, was a really good thing to use. And I guess I just wasn't creative enough to think that, well, that just meant concave glass, and there was lots of other things that would have worked. I was blessed, not really too many years ago, by one of my loved ones, when she realized I'd always wanted a mirror and didn't have one, that she had a piece of glass that would be perfect for me, and indeed it was, and it's what I made my mirror out of. But I would say that I would guide anyone not to take the search quite as seriously as I did. You do want a concave, piece of glass. But I have recently seen something as simple as a very shallow bowl. I have seen bowls that were meant to be used for salad bowls or bowls that went underneath other place settings, as long as they are very shallow and very concave, and I'd say 12 inches wide. I don't think you'd want to go smaller than 10 or 12 inches wide. There are a lot of opportunities out there. If you go to any discount home store place, I can guarantee you will find things. You can also find picture frames that you can get in junk shops. A big one is oval picture frames that have a little bit of the bubble to the glass, commonly used in portraits. That's another way that you can find glass to use to make your witch's mirror. It's not as complex as I made it for myself. Mind you, I'm not complaining. I ended up with a perfect mirror, and I really love my mirror. Once you've found that curved piece of glass, it truly is a simple matter of painting the back of it black. Some thoughts on painting the back of it black. My original mirror that was part of the practice in my first coven, it was stove black that was used to paint the back of it. All well and good. It did have to be re-blacked every now and then, which is part of a ritual process, all well and good in itself. However, the stove black tended to get on hands and on white robes, and it was basically pretty messy. Stove black's a good idea. It goes back to when that was one of the few options to have black paint. And then I encountered a group who had used marine enamel. Truly, the paint that's used to paint boats, commonly hulls. It's very strong and very bonding, like it really sticks to the glass. Not such a good idea, in that when I dealt with holding that mirror that I encountered, it was beautiful. It had a very reflective surface. However, a great part of using your mirror is blessing it, anointing it, using oils, using herbs, marking the paint on the back, and the shiny everything rolls off of its surface of any paint which is the nature of something like marine paint. I personally don't prefer it. Good old flat black paint. You may have better luck than I did. When I was attempting a mirror earlier in my life, I used spray paint, and I had too much trouble with that bubbling. It didn't work for me. I actually had to use just plain flat black paint, which I brushed on, and the secret was I probably did 3 or 4 coats. That way you get that reflective surface without any marring in it, and you also get the dull surface, which will welcome any way you choose to anoint or manipulate the back of your mirror. There's my thoughts on painting your mirror. There are some thoughts about whether your mirror should be framed or not. It's a matter of how it feels to you. The logic of framing it is you're not touching the mirror itself. You are touching what holds the mirror. In a sense, the mirror floats. So there's some logic to that. There really is logic to that. But there's also the logic of dealing with the mirror directly itself and not having anything earthbound to it. It's a matter of feeling it, thinking about what it would be like for you, and whether you want to be in touch with the mirror directly or whether you like the idea of a framed mirror. I have the best of both worlds with my mirror. It is not framed, however it does have a gold band around the outside of it. It's the way it came. It's the way the glass was when it came to me, and that's worked out very well for me. I have not preferred handling mirrors that have frames around them, but I have seen them used very well by those who like the feeling of kind of holding it but not holding it. It allows a certain vibration or energy of the mirror with us not being directly in touch with it. So you'll see a couple different schools of thought when it comes to that. My practice with the mirror, I actually do this several times in a year's time. There is a certain time of year I always do it, but there are other times when I move to do it. Recharging my mirror. I have a very crude way of decharging my mirror. It's the same way I clean the mirror before painting it. It's using alcohol on it, rubbing alcohol. It just desensitizes the mirror, totally cleans it, totally takes off any oils of both oils you've used on it, or also the oils of your body when you've held it. To recharge my mirror, I take the mirror outside and I hold it up at the full moon to capture the reflection of the moon in it. Yes, that's Catoptromancy. It is that fancy word which means nothing more than capturing the image of the moon in a polished surface. It doesn't mean the mirror is any less a creature of water. It is absolutely a creature of water, going back to the drawing down of the moon into watery surfaces. It hasn't lost that, even as we've evolved from using water to water in vessels to shiny metal surfaces to glass. So you've got your mirror. You've painted it in any way you've chosen. You have framed it or not, according to what feels right to you, and you've drawn down the moon into it for the first time to bless it. Let's talk a little bit next about fluid condensers when it comes to your mirror.